It is 85 degrees outside, and I'm about to run 5 miles on concrete, fully corseted. This might be the most idiotic thing I've ever done on camera. It is certainly the most idiotic I've ever looked on camera. But hey, things I do for science, right? At the end of February, an article was posted on the Sun's website stating that networks like Netflix were banning corsets from period dramas like Bridgerton because, comma quote, there were health and safety concerns about keeping women in a pinching corset for weeks at a time. The article also stated that corsets were famously restrictive and that their actresses were complaining of getting damage after wearing them for 12 to 14 hours at a time. I'm a classically trained dancer, actor, and costume designer with more than 30 years experience in the performing arts industry, and I call BS. And while costumers in my sphere with more historical credentials have already discussed this particular rumor and the whole problem at large, I thought it'd be interesting to approach it from a different angle. I'd put myself in a Regency-style corset like they would wear in Bridgerton, wear it for the longest period of time specified, and put myself not just through a normal day, but a rigorous, intensive day that could be equated to filming on a set for 14 hours. Will I have sores all down my back after wearing my famously restrictive corset for that long? Or will I be totally fine? Here's my day.
Good morning. It is 8:27. I slept way later than I was supposed to, and I am in full potato Jackie mode. I've got a very busy day ahead of me, and I'm already behind, so I've got my busk, I've got my stays. Let's get this thing on.
So let's talk about what these are and what these are not. I use the word corset and stays interchangeably in this video for the sake of the algorithm. However, in the Regency period, though the term corset was becoming popularized, feminine presenting people wore what we call stays, either long stays or short. I made and fit these for myself using the red-threaded Regency stays pattern, which is appropriate for the years 1800 through 1830. It's only lightly boned. The point of this thing is not to tight lace down. You can't tight lace this. Metal grommets weren't used in corsetry at this time. I don't care how tight you make your stitches on your hand-worked eyelets, that kind of tension is gonna rip through your fabric faster than wrapping paper on Christmas morning. They didn't need to lace down their waists in this time period anyway, because this is where the term empire waist comes from. The skirts extend directly below the bust. The waist is totally hidden. The girls, on the other hand, are pushed so far up they almost touch your chin.
Okay, we're laced in. I'm going to get my coffee started, become human a little bit, and I need to start working at my day job. Obviously, I can't really film that because I'm on the clock, so I'll catch back with you in a couple of hours and we'll talk about this thing a little bit. All right, bye.
This is not helpful. Also, handy tip, don't buy a white coffee maker. It's impossible to keep clean. Given that these stays can't and wouldn't have been tight-laced, the question you might be asking yourself now is, then how come the actors are complaining so much? Well, my friends, that brings us to the whole point of this video. Corsets are not the problem here. Our preconceived notions of corsets and unfair beauty standards are really what are out there harming our performers. Alrighty, it is now 12:30 and I have finished working for the day. Woohoo! So, how do I feel? I will say that this particular pair of stays is my least comfortable pair of stays, and that is because of the wooden busk that is, 2 inches wide and 14 inches long and pressing against my belly. It is particularly uncomfortable when sitting because it presses into your sternum and then my belly pushes it out. And so I really have to sit up straight. But that being said, I'm okay. I mean, I had just sat for 4 hours and I'm not feeling any pinching. I don't think that I'm any less uncomfortable than wearing maybe a normal bra, except with a giant wooden thing in the middle of it. I am going to get my grocery list together and change for my run. I'm dreading it. Let's go get going. Corsets are fetishized in our society as this huge symbol of how bad things used to be. They represent pain, femininity, women's weakness. Think about how many bedpost clutching, corset tightening scenes there are in movies and TV. That image, that is what we all think about when we think about corsets. Well, that and Elizabeth Swann fainting over a wall into the ocean. But it is a mythical concept. Feminine presenting people wore stays and corsets for centuries, with zero bedpost grabbing and zero "I can't breathe" moments. That is us trying to feel superior over the past. In reality, we're using corsets as a scapegoat. They're the bad guys, not the misogynistic ideals hiding behind them. That women endure pain to please men, that they are weak physically and exist only as sexual objects. Those actresses are getting put in corsets and probably forced to lace down to pursue these notions. It is 85 degrees outside, and I'm about to run 5 miles on concrete, fully corseted. This might be the most idiotic thing I've ever done on camera. It is certainly the most idiotic I've ever looked on camera. But hey, things I do for science, right? Okay, firstly, I apologize if you can hear traffic noise. I'm gonna do the best I can to speak over it, but I am in the parking lot of my office. I normally do these runs on a trail, but I had some serious concerns about someone swiping my camera equipment or breaking into my car to swipe my camera equipment. This was the safest place I could think of to film. However, I did not account for the fact that I have coworkers at the office right now. There's gonna be some awkward questions happening on Monday. Maybe they're so focused on their work that they're not gonna see me, fingers crossed. There are just a couple of modifications I had to do to make this run viable. Firstly, I'm gonna remove the busk. Now, when I say that this is idiotic, the real problem is not me. The problem are the stays. I have concerns about these stays getting ripped while I do this. They're not built for this. However, if I rip my stays, I can fix that. I can't fix a broken busk. I would have to buy a new one. So I am taking this out purely because I don't want to break it. Also, if anybody knows why it twists like that, please let me know. The other slight modification I did was to just loosen my straps a little bit to give me a little bit more movement. All right, I've stalled long enough. Let's get this thing over with. Having been a costume designer for both theater and in one case film, I know how hard it can be to juggle the director's vision, your funding, actor demands, and your own ideas. Often costumers get some random measurements for an actor which may or may not be right, with one final fitting 2 days before shooting and 5 gazillion outfits to alter in the meantime. There's no way that those corsets fit well. There's no way that they're comfortable. And by purposefully doing that to the actors, the industry is perpetuating the myth in a way that earns them prestige, money, and attention. Because every time someone comes out and complains about their corsets, everything blows up. And so by risking the health and safety of the actors, there is a huge amount of profit being made. And it's a vicious cycle, one we need to break. In case you're wondering, 5 miles is my standard run for a Saturday. So the only change in this is the corset. Even the heat is normal, and it sucks normally too. Well, I did it. Here's your proof. 5.4 miles, 57 minutes, 31 seconds. Fully corseted. It wasn't good, it wasn't fast, it wasn't fun, but I did it. And if you're enjoying watching me torture myself, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't, so that I know that this was worth it. And trust me, the worst is yet to come. So how do I feel? I'm hot. I am really uncomfortably hot. That was miserable. Now 85 degrees on a shady trail is one thing, but 85 degrees on bald concrete when the sun is the highest it is in the sky during the day feels more like 95 and However, it wasn't any more hot and miserable than I would have been if I had just been running in shorts and a sports bra. So there were only two things that I noticed about wearing the stays while I was exercising. For the most part, they didn't make any difference into what I was doing, except these straps kept falling down and they were driving me crazy. So I ended up taking them off because I got tired of doing that. That was really annoying. And the lacing that was lacing me up kept falling down and whacking me in the back of the leg, and that was really annoying. But otherwise, it really wasn't that bad. And the worst part of this is now I get to go to the store. But first, I needed to get the busk back in. I'm so sweaty, it doesn't want to go in. I ended up having to unlace them completely to get the busk back in. In retrospect, I should have just left the darn thing in. So what I mean here is that the store is really the worst part because now I'm so sweaty. If you've ever spent hours in wet clothing, even natural fibers, you know what I mean. I can't actually get this laced back up because the lacing is soaked. So I'm gonna say F it and go to the store. Here we go. That's 3 flights of stairs, my friends, with a week's worth of groceries on my shoulders. Here we go. One thing you might not know is that filming is quite grueling work. A 12 to 14 hour shift is long, especially if you're being forced to say the same thing over and over and over again until it's perfect. Environmental conditions are never optimal during shoots either. Think about how many actors you hear talking about how cold it was or how windy it was when shooting, especially outside. All right, I'm going to change out of some of these wet clothes, put my groceries away, and then eat lunch. She's gonna eat? Yeah, man, I am. The short film I shot was a 6-day shoot. The first shoot was 3 days of night shooting from dusk till dawn, crammed into a tiny consignment shop with the AC turned off in the middle of summer. The second was 3 days outside at a private airport in Texas in July. It was above 100 degrees all 3 days. Let me tell you, both were awful and exhausting. And I was the costume designer. I didn't have to be on pretending I wasn't miserable for the camera half the time. Now imagine having to do that wearing a corset that doesn't fit. It would definitely suck. I have changed shirts because I am dyeing the fabric for my next project right now, and definitely did not want to get it on my stays. So I have been hauling about 20 gallons of water in a 5-gallon bucket from my bathroom to out here in my dye tub. That was not easy with a giant wooden busk on. The dye is just about done. I'm gonna give it one good last stir, and then we're gonna get it out and in the washing machine to rinse out all of the excess dye. This is definitely not a great job to do while corseted, but I'm doing it anyway. I wanted to show you the extremes to intentionally do uncomfortable things. The things that in theory should be impossible corseted. But as you can see, these stays aren't really hindering me that much. And they shouldn't. They're meant to give support to the bust and help bear the weight of heavy skirts, not suck you in to the point of bleeding. It is now 4:30, actually it's 4:40. And I was hoping to dry off a little bit more before I went back out, but time's a-wasting. So I'm gonna pack my stuff up and head over to my favorite local brewery. That's right, friends. She's drinking beer, the most famously bloating beverage in the world, while laced up in a pair of stays. Did she have to loosen them up to accommodate her intake? Nah. All right, I'm back from the brewery. It's 6:59, so we've got a couple more hours left. These stays have finally dried from all of the sweat from my run. The last thing I want to do is keep working. I really just want to sit down and relax. But there has been one thing that I have been putting off because I know how awful it's going to be, and that's emptying all the water from my dye tub outside. I cannot lift it. So what I have to do is bucket by bucket, take the 5-gallon, fill it up, come inside, waddle it over to the bathtub in my stays. I really want to put it off till tomorrow, but it's really not good. It's really not good to leave it all sitting in there like that. So I'm gonna get done. No rest for the weary. Time to cook dinner. From my shirt to yours, please wear an apron when you cook. This is my favorite go-to pasta sauce, great for busy nights, corseted or not. Cooks up in half an hour and is great with any kind of protein or vegetarian if that's your jam. Haha. Well, but these are Regency stays, you're probably saying. What about steel-boned corsets? Both the corset I made for my Ursula cosplay and the corset I made for my Taco Bell cosplay are fully boned with steel boning and metal grommets. The Taco Bell one is even made from poly satin. I can and have laced down in those successfully and worn them for hours and hours, walking around all day, going to cons, dancing like an idiot for hours in sweaty venues. All without any kind of chemise underneath, without getting any sores. Same with my mullet stays. I can dry for hours in those. I've worn them to hot and sweaty Ren fairs, and I still will proudly claim they're more comfortable than my bra. I cannot stress enough that if a corset fits, it won't do what these actresses are saying. In my fitting stays video, I even talk about this, how fitting is the difference between being miserable and not even noticing you're corseted. So how do we vanquish the myth? Firstly, we educate ourselves. Just by watching through this video, you're helping to make steps toward a safer environment for all. I encourage you to seek more of this content out, because you'll quickly see I'm not the only person who feels this way. There is a whole kit of experts who feel similarly. It's time that Hollywood stops trying to profit off of the corset conundrum. It's time they stopped torturing their actors for publicity's sake. It's time they give more budget to costumers in period dramas for properly fitting corsets and stays. Profit should not take precedence over actors being able to function in a healthy manner. Obviously, custom corsets for an entire production would be astronomical, but say properly fitting stays on your 5 lead actresses who are going to be in them day in and day out for months on end, you can shell out for that, especially for a show like Bridgerton with multiple seasons. And they don't have to be perfectly custom. Even a pair of Regency stays off the rack from Red Threaded are going to be more comfortable than those ill-fitting contraptions they're in now. And put them in some chemises for the sake of the gods. Having something underneath is not only more comfortable, but actually how they're supposed to be worn. We also need to stop using extreme tight lacing, both visually in film as lazy storytelling and in practice to reduce the size of actors. And we also need to stop sexualizing women's pain. Let's stop perpetuating the false belief that corsets are bad. Corsets are support garments, not Disney villains. Finally, after cleaning up the dinner dishes, I got to sit down. Cheers, y'all. But the work for Jackie is not finished. I've got a giant 18th century cap to complete. It's 10:30 p.m. It's time to take this thing off. I'm ready. It really didn't bother me all day until I sat down to relax. The whole point of this is that it has a giant busk down the front of it to keep up your posture. So when you want to relax and potato on the couch, it makes it a little difficult. I had to like sit on the edge of the couch, straight rod back, like hand sewing my cap. It wasn't uncomfortable, so to speak, but it was definitely not what I wanted to do. So I do want to just show you the state of my busk. I don't have a problem with the busk in my 17th century stays. It's just these stays. I've asked countless costumers why it twists like this, and nobody knows. So, bye. All right, let's get it off. So obviously I'm not going to show this on camera, but when I took the stays off, I didn't have any marks on my body at all. There was nothing. After 14 hours of wearing those stays, of running 5 miles in really intense heat, sweating into my stays, staying in them for hours after I sweat, the only marks I had were right under the arms here, where the top of the stays went over the tank top I had underneath and rubbed against my skin. However, I get that on a normal hot day running in my sports bra. So that mark is not because of the stays, but because of friction. I hope this has been informational for you. I hope this has been entertaining for you. Was it uncomfortable to wear for 14 hours? Yeah, but was it any more uncomfortable than wearing a standard underwire bra for 14 hours? No. Was it any more uncomfortable than wearing an underwire bra, running 5 miles and sweating in 90-degree heat? No. It was about the equivalent with just some slight inconveniences. All right. I am not making sense anymore. So I'm gonna turn off the camera. I'm going to go relax and potato into my couch. Thank y'all so much for watching this. I appreciate you for being here, and I'll catch y'all in my next video.
And if you'd like more great corset content, you can check out this video here. Bye y'all.